I can try to answer that. So I don't think it's advisable to rush and clear your just any sort of degree within 4 years unless you have the skill set or the time to. I don't think it's definitely not necessary, but it's something that I think a few people do for those who are really, really super. But I think in most cases, people tend to finish at 4 years, or if not, an extra quarter or so.
Well, let's see, and there is the 5-year master's
Yeah,
program,
4
right?
+ 1.
Yeah, the 4 + 1.
But you
Yeah.
have to have like a 3 point, what is the GPA? There's a requirement.
3.5.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you maintain 3.5, then you can be admitted into that master's program, which is another additional year. So bachelor's, master's in 5 years.
Oh, so I'd like to add to that. I personally don't advise rushing through a degree because I think it's important to go through and understand the material of all the classes you take, because it's understanding those concepts and building those technical skills along the way that help you land your jobs, internships, and research opportunities.
Looks like there's a question for me. So when I graduated from UCLA, I went to Texas Instruments and did technical sales. And so essentially I sold semiconductor chips to a variety of companies. And by the time I left, I was the global account manager for HP's printing division. And so I worked at TI for 5 years and had gotten that promotion. And at that point I applied to MBA programs. And so in 2018, I went to Wharton and got my MBA and graduated in 2020. And so now I think we were chatting earlier, I'm not sure if you heard, but I view MBAs as like, it's a great reset to kind of build your path there on out because it builds credibility that you're capable of just about any role. So I am at a small fintech healthcare company now. I built off of this sales and like complex problem solving skill set, and have been doing product strategy and commercial development and like partnership building, but like sky was the limit. I think it opens the doors to any job you would want.
I guess I should mention on that is that I work at Jet Propulsion Laboratory. It's the NASA laboratory. And most of our administrators are former engineering majors and a lot of them are electrical engineers who went back and got MBAs and then participated in the management track. So less in terms of the entrepreneurial areas as Erica is doing, but more in the technical management areas. And the MBA programs are extremely helpful for that. And so they're still electrical engineers going forward, and they use that expertise in their job, but the MBA gets some additional business aspects that are important in the management role.
I'll also say that being a double E applying to MBA programs, I think it gives you an edge because they definitely look at like the profile of people coming in because they want to build diversity in their classes, and they get a million applicants that are from finance or that are consultants and that this is the standard path. And having double E in this other experience really sets you apart. And I think like if you have like the right work experience and a decent GPA, like, I mean, my GPA was not close to a 4.0, like they understand that it's a hard major and account for that. But I think it really does give you an edge when you apply.
And the same is also true if you apply, if you're interested in law school, if you want to go and become a lawyer, is that the engineers, the electrical engineers specifically are very highly sought after in law school for patent law or even different types of intellectual property areas. Mm-hmm. Very, very important.
Allison, I think you have a question in the chat.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I can talk a little bit about, well, so UCLA they used to have what is it called? Like pathways, I think, where you could choose a focus for your major, whether that's like a different engineering field or probably other things. But now they do tech breadth classes where you do your normal EE classes and then you get to choose, I think, 3 other engineering classes that you're interested in. So you can continue taking more EE classes if you want, but I chose to do more computer science classes. And I think at the time I was becoming more interested in computer science, and that was like sophomore to junior year. And that's actually when they introduced the computer engineering major, which Jiwon ended up switching to. He switched to like CSE first, and then CE or something like that.
Kind of.
But I think if I were to have redone it, I became more interested in computer science. I think I would have switched to computer engineering because I didn't really love my physics classes, where CE is a good balance between EE and computer science. I think it's kind of confusing, but so computer science and engineering is under the computer science department. And that's very heavily computer science with like a few EE classes, and then computer engineering, which Jiwon can speak more about, I think is a much better balance between EE and CS. Whereas me, where I was an EE major and only got to take like a few CS classes, I think I would have benefited a lot more by switching my major, but it was a little bit too late. But if you have room in your schedule also, where you just like breeze through your classes and take more per quarter, you can obviously fit more classes in your schedule, but I thought that was too hard. So I took like what the recommended amount was and didn't push myself to take more. But I do know people who like packed their schedules and wanted to take more interesting classes that they found that they wanted to take. Yeah.
But you finished in 4 years?
Yeah, I finished. I do know people who took like 5 classes a quarter, which is insane, but they just found like other classes interesting, so they just took it. But I would not have survived doing that. Yeah.
And I think these days we recommend that the students don't do that and use that extra time for the clubs and the organization.
Yep. Yeah.
Get the hands-on experience and have a more broad background rather than just the academics.
Yeah.
But it's whatever they want to do. It's all available there.
But the one thing to note is that I think it's very doable to graduate in 4 years. And so like if you want to stay or if you want to slow it down to, have other experiences, I mean, anyone can do that. But I know that me and most of my friends were able to do it in 4 with no issue.
I think they really make an effort to, the classes are available, you're not waiting on them, get in and you can take them, and the curricula is tractable.
Yep.
You see that someone else just joined, Mateo. I hope I'm saying that right.
Alex, I want to learn more about your master's program and what kind of classes you're taking.
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually been doing this for almost 3 years. Yeah. So it's under it's called electrical engineering, but you can really pick your classes. So we have to take 9 classes, and up to 3 can be outside of electrical engineering. So I took 3 computer science classes and 6 electrical engineering classes. But all these classes are mainly based on machine learning. So I took database systems, machine learning algorithms, data mining. There's 2 different classes on that. Social network mining, math of data storage systems, digital speech processing, and right now I'm taking my last class on reinforcement learning. So it is very software based, and it's not quite related to what my direct role has been since I graduated from college. But I think it's really important to have the skill set, especially because it's a growing area for the rest of our careers. But overall, doing a master's while working full time is not easy. It's definitely a test of time management and possibly managing your mental health to not overwork yourself.
Alex, this is the UCLA MS Online program.
That is correct, Dan.
And what did it take to apply to that? Was it difficult to get into the program?
No, it's actually much easier to get into the online program compared to doing it the full time because there are less students doing it and it's online, so it's a little more flexible for the department. But the process is similar. You apply with just like you applied to grad school. You need to get your letters of rec. Best if you get it from a professor. So I had 2 professors at UCLA write my rec letter and my working manager write a rec letter. I also had to do the GRE. It seems like now you don't have, for now, you don't have to do the GRE to apply to grad school.
Oh,
So
yeah.
take advantage of that because of due to COVID.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Same as SAT and ACT now.
Yeah. But I heard the admit rate is really high for the MS Online program. It's like 50 to 66% compared to maybe 20% if you were to do the full time.
How big were your classes?
Huh?
How big were the classes?
Oh, the classes are typically pretty small. It can be as small as 8 to as big as 30. But sometimes it's a hybrid class with the on-campus students. Like for example, the reinforcement class, we have 25 online students and 125 in-person students.
Wow.
I see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I did my master's while working with Columbia, and we are always in the hybrid mode with the in-classroom students. And I think the smallest class I took had like 3 people, including myself.
Did you have to attend the classes in real time or were the lectures?
No, it was recorded, so you don't have to do it real time. But yeah. Okay, I think Kevin asked what were our favorite classes at UCLA. I think for me it was definitely the RF design capstone class, and then also the device physics class.
For me, I'll mention both so in my master's, my favorite class is actually machine learning, neural networks and deep learning. But in my undergrad, my most favorite class would have to be systems design, which is the capstone class, senior design class.
I'll do something non-engineering related. I actually really enjoyed my GE, right? General education. Yeah, GE classes. Sadly, as engineers, we only get to take, I think it was 5 or so. Whereas like, I think other, like if you're an English major or something, you have to take like 10 or something like that. But I really enjoyed the first GE class I took, which was jazz history. Like during one of my discussion sessions, they brought in like swing dance teachers and we got to do swing dance during the discussion session. And so I found my Gs were really great because they broke up my heavy engineering class schedules. Yeah, if anyone else wants to recommend a GE class that they enjoyed, we have like such professors in other majors, so it's really great to take advantage of them too.
That's really funny, Allison, that you brought that up because when I saw the chat said favorite classes, that was the one that I first thought of, the history of jazz class. Same class, great class.
Do you remember the professor you had, or?
Well, remember I took that 40 years ago, so it was. But the thing about Tanner is that he was a trombone player in the Glenn Miller band, and so he had the history all the way back into the 30s, and it was really very fascinating.
Whoa.
And then he played with the Beach Boys in the 70s, and I mean, he was really a really well-rounded guy. That and the synthesizers. Anyway.
I also took the history of jazz class, and that was one of my favorites. But I also, in addition to that, I took Beethoven and opera as well. And you know, it's kind of amazing to be at a place at UCLA where you really have kind of world class both performers as well as academic researchers and whatnot too. So, taking a class like opera, for example, so it's not a performing class I'm talking about, right? So I wasn't singing opera, but learning about opera, and it was so fascinating just to be able to hear live performances and things like that from really world-class singers, for example.
I will piggyback on the music trend. I actually took symphony and was in marching band. And so having that break things up was super fun. But in terms of EE classes, I love the hands-on classes, and I know that they have developed a lot more of those since I left. But I took a digital signal processing class where we made like a vowel recognition system. But anything that was like hands-on that we actually got to make, I really enjoyed.
There's a question in the chat to get back onto engineering. Does UCLA teach enough about our analog and RF circuit design to get a full design job after a master's? And amazingly, I know something about this because I do teach the microwave circuits design in the electrical engineering department. My students go out there and have jobs as RF and analog circuit designers. So the answer is yes, they have a very comprehensive set of courses in that area. And then they also have a lot of labs where people actually get experience building them and get hands-on also. But there's plenty of coursework and courses and expertise on campus that people go out there and get jobs in that field very, very easily in Southern California.
Yeah, I did the RF track, and I remember my capstone design course over the year was like you actually simulate and actually fabricate the circuit, and you test it to make sure that it's meeting the requirements. So it's like a full-on experience. So after that, you would definitely have a good understanding of how this would work in a real job.
And I used to manage the RF products organization at Northrop Grumman. And definitely we hired a lot of UCLA students. And the question actually that you asked was after a master's. So certainly after a master's, but even with a bachelor's degree, if somebody is focused on, either of those two areas, analog or RF circuit design, you definitely will know enough to even coming out with a bachelor's degree in those areas to be able to get a full-time job in those areas as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of demand in the Southern California area. And Northrop Grumman, where David works, is a major employer here. They get a lot of our students in this area. And I think just this last quarter, I had one of my students working from Northrop Grumman now with a bachelor's, and I wrote a letter of recommendation for him to enter a master's program. He wants to continue on in RF circuit design. So it's a very, very common area for us. Does anyone else have any favorite classes that they really like?
I'll add one more. Oh, okay. Someone else can answer.
No, I was going to say that I probably picked the wrong GE classes. I took the GE cluster because freshman year I didn't declare engineering major.
Oh no!
And I did human aging, which was surprisingly interesting. It was a whole year of studying of older people, but we did get to work in the retirement home, and we did apply our knowledge. And I think the last quarter I took immunology, which I highly would not recommend.
I heard those are a lot more effort. The
Yeah,
G.
it was a lot more effort.
Nah, okay. Yeah. What was your favorite class? Oh, Alex, what was your favorite class?
Oh, I already talked about it. Neural networks and the senior design class. Oh, I got a good question for all of us to answer. What is something you would do differently in your undergrad experience?
I would join more student clubs. I was one of those people. I think the one quarter I took most classes, I took 7 classes. It was really stupid to do, and I was kind of in this mode of, oh, I want to rush through and just like get a job or something, or go to grad school. And afterwards, I realized that college was actually one of the happiest time. So I wish like I actually spent more time and just like enjoy it and spend more time with the social life and all that. So yeah, don't make the same mistake I did.
I was similar. I think I was afraid of how hard the classes were going to be first year that I didn't sign up for that much. And so second year I kind of over indexed and then signed up for a lot of things. But first year is when everyone is like super open to meeting people and a lot of like really good friends are made. And so just taking advantage of that time when you first come in to like explore, and you can always drop things later if it gets to be too much. But really like, open yourself up to all of the opportunities and that are going to happen in the first, I'd say like 2 to 3 months.
Definitely +1 to that. I think exploring as, many clubs as you want in your first year definitely helps you figure out like what you're interested in and what you're not interested in, right? Because taking classes alone only, limits your scope to whatever major you're in. So in this case, it'd be EE or CE, but, joining clubs like for civil engineers or mechanical engineers, that might surprisingly interest you, and that's okay. Yeah, I think that's something that I would have changed too, because I basically was only involved in IEEE during my freshman year, and luckily I was able to enjoy it and I got involved continuously. But I wish that I had been involved in the other engineering clubs or even the non-engineering clubs, so that I can meet new people and just get diverse lessons and perspectives.
Yeah, I actually teach courses in both mechanical aerospace and also in electrical engineering. And one of the things that's interesting is, for example, the Rocket Club, which is an aerospace club, they really recruit double E's because there's guidance and navigation involved and robotics involved. And you get students into that area and they get all excited about it, and they go into rocket science in some cases. And so you have to try these different clubs and try things and see what you're excited about. And it may be the work itself, or it may be the application itself. Do you want to go to an asteroid or another planet, or do you want to design a circuit? And those are all done. You find that out in the clubs. It's really a great thing, and there's a lot of it.
For me, it's actually a little contrary to the crowd. I actually was a little too involved with my extracurricular activities, and I didn't study enough. So I did wish like I did focus a little more on my studies, and also study in groups with friends. It makes it more fun, and you actually learn better that way. Another thing I kind of overlooked was studying for interviews. It's kind of like a hidden class, as in you kind of have to, like some friends have to like tell you like, oh, you should probably study for your coding interviews or your hardware engineering interviews. Because I was actually caught off guard in my senior year when I was applying to software engineering roles, when they gave me those coding tests. It took a couple tries before I actually landed my job. So something to keep in mind throughout your undergraduate career.
I think it's truly a balance. You have to be sure that you're doing everything properly. If you get excited in the clubs or in extra activities, you can't neglect your studies. So you got to do both.
Looks like there's a question in the chat about capstone classes.
Yeah. So I was actually typing the thing, but I can answer that. So I remember for me, we had 2 classes. We had a lab and then a capstone design. And then we had 6 circuits in total. 3 were passive and 3 were active. And for the passive ones, we're just like designing the circuit. Like there are some reference design we can use. There are like examples from the book. And the TA was definitely really helpful in this case. And then for the active circuits, we had the devices already selected. We're doing the matching circuit. And that was also like you refer to the book and some reference design. And I think the TA played a bigger role than the professors did for my case. It wasn't Dan who taught me that class. And yeah. So another thing I wanted to kind of add on top of the activities you can do at school was that, I actually was part of the martial art groups. So I took a lot of martial art classes and I met a lot of people there, including Professor Rob Keller. So he was in my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu class, and then he started posting in the Facebook group, and I saw that, oh, he's actually a professor in our department. And I was taking the best physics class at the time, so I would always bring my questions to him after our training session. And I got a free tutor for like a quarter.
Do you still do martial arts?
Well, no, during COVID, unfortunately.
Yeah. Before and after COVID?
Definitely, yeah. You just put your colleague's photo on the punching bag. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, because I do Krav Maga and I'm waiting to go back. So anyway, it's good activity. The question in here, are we going to be using any special software for EE classes? Anyone?
Yeah, or Wenry just answers like MATLAB and Cadence for circuit design. We also do have some Verilog labs / courses. And Verilog's just basically a hardware description language for FPGAs. That also seems to be the hot topic these days, ASICs and FPGAs. But yeah, I think we have a variety of them. And definitely all these student clubs have, I guess, reinforcement or projects for them as well.
I will say that I think PCs are more desirable in EE than Macs were, or Apple products for this type of software, because I think it was much more compatible. Or I just know that like my friends who had Macs just had a harder time, and with like getting the software, and they had to, I don't know,
to like VPN into a Windows system.
Yeah. So if you're like thinking about buying a laptop, I would, and you're thinking about doing EE, is to probably get a PC for college.
But there's definitely no need to buy a new laptop for college.
Oh,
though.
yeah.
Like you should be good with whatever laptop you have, or if not, we have some computer labs that are free of access for engineering students. So there's a lot of resources for you to use without having to buy a new one. Oh, and Thomas asked,
I think Thomas asked a question about FPGAs. I can answer this one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So in my role at Viasat, I first started off doing more digital design. So that involves a lot of Verilog and VHDL. In that case, like you have to write code for that. But on top of it, there's also a C component to it. So I had to do program in both VHDL and C in order to write the application I was working on. On top of that, I also did like more like the software development side. So that was mainly in C++. How that worked was there's a giant code base that the team has been developing over years. And what I would do is I would go in and modify the code to meet whatever spec that we are asked to do. And after running some unit tests, I would compile that code and generate some image or binary file to program onto the FPGA. And part of that process is also testing. So I would go into the lab with the and sit next to the hardware with the lab computer, and also run some tests, like using different lab tools to communicate with the FPGA to make sure that it's functioning properly. So I did not do the circuit design part, but I did have team members who designed like the hardware boards for the actual system, and also hardware to test the platform. So my role did involve reading schematics to understand how the connections work, so that I can program the FPGA accordingly to drive like certain pins and signals, etc.
Thomas is asking very educated questions, very technical. For everyone else, if you don't know what that is, it's okay. I didn't know what FPGAs or what circuits were when I joined UCLA.
FPGA, in really basic terms, is like a brain.
Programmable brain.
A program, yes, a field programmable brain.
Just as obstinate sometimes.
Oh, what's Verilog? Verilog is a hardware description language. You can think of it as a programming language that is typically used to implement digital logic. Like a really basic example would be like an AND function. So like if you have input A and input B and you AND it together, then the output would be A and B, something like that. So Verilog is just one of those languages to let you do that.
So Allison, you work in Redwood now?
Yeah, Redwood City. I live in Mountain View, but my office is in Redwood City.
Do you enjoy the Bay Area compared to living in Southern California?
I would say I like SoCal more still, but I have a lot of friends up here. And so I'd say NorCal is enjoyable for that reason. I've come to like it a lot more than I thought I would. But the housing prices still scare me. Yeah.
Well, I have a lot of people working at Google and Amazon and Apple and everything up there. There's a lot of people.
Yeah, there is. Yeah. Yeah, my roommates are both from UCLA. One of them works at Amazon and the other works at a startup nearby. So everyone's in tech up here, which is also like one of the reasons why it's like, because everyone is in tech and you can't really escape it. But great networking scene. You could meet anyone from everywhere. Yeah.
I will say that the food in SoCal is still better.
I miss my taco food trucks, my like $1 taco food trucks. Up here, like meals are a minimum of like $15, which is, yeah.
Oh, that's the one thing that I miss the most about UCLA is the food in campus and around campus. It's so good.
I'm hoping the freshmen will be able to live on the hill because, oh my God. Oh, that would be one of my favorite memories from, I forget if that was a question, but I love the dorm food. Yeah.
I think they're trying to bring students back in the fall.
I think the plan is that students will be fully back in the fall and the freshmen will be back in the dorms. Actually, everyone will be back in the dorms.
Yeah, I don't know how the food situation will work though, because it's, I don't know, a lot of touching, a lot of things. I don't know if
think
they're like
vaccination, right? If everybody can get vaccinated, it should be all
They're
right.
assuming everyone can be vaccinated. There'll still be some goals, but I'll just tell you, I'm really looking forward to getting back and teaching classes in person because I've been teaching now this is the second year and I just hate it. It's the worst.
Okay, someone asked what were our favorite memories from UCLA.
We were kind of working on that.
Yeah, the food scene in LA is great. So like one of the first memories I have is going to all you can eat Korean barbecue with some newly found IEEE friends, and we were like cleaning up the lab, and after we went to all you can eat Korean barbecue at like the most cheap all you can eat place in Cage Pound, which is like $11 or something like that. It's very probably very poor quality. But for your age, it's like okay for what the amount you eat. So I miss that a lot. Yeah.
For me, just like the countless nights of like, there were like 4 friends that lived in an apartment and then a few of us that were close by. And it was like the HKN lounge and that apartment were like my 2 homes. And we would finish and go straight from there to like, I'm going to age myself because Bruco doesn't exist anymore, but like Bruco or Pint Night or just wherever, or like an 11:45 stop to walk down to go get froyo before it closed at midnight. And just like all of those moments of like having your friends be the ones that you're like going through this with and like getting through it together.
Was Rocco's there when you were is that the no? Yeah, I think it's a new bar.
I think for me, so I really enjoy playing and watching sports, and UCLA athletics is usually very, very good. Sometimes it ends with heartbreak, but it's okay. So I really, exactly, sad. But I really enjoyed or appreciated the fact that, I could just go out and whenever and watch, high level Division I sports and cheer your, school on. And there's a lot of club sports and even IM sports that you can do on your free time. So however you want to invest your time into it, you can get as much, fitness or sports in as you want. And I'm going to try to answer Eric's question at the same time. So favorite restaurants nearby the campus. For me, there's this little small like Asian or Japanese town called Southtel, which is I think just a short Uber drive or Uber ride away. And my favorite restaurant was this ramen place called Daikokuya, which I really loved. And there's also a really cheap taco truck called Leo's Taco Truck, which is also a short ride away and so good.
It's funny. I think I went to school many years ago, of course, and I think I have similar kinds of favorite memories. Those ones where we're working with lab partner or a group, a small team, working together late at night, working on some really hard project and that kind of thing. So those were definitely very memorable. Working in Boulder actually. And then, again, sort of this theme of the benefits of being on such a world-class large campus is that, there were movie premieres where directors and actors would come into Ackerman Grand Ballroom. And at that time, the movies were free. And to be able to sort of be in person with people that you would see on TV or whatnot, or I think Wooden Center might have just opened while I was at school, and being able to play on the basketball courts there, where we had the UCLA basketball team who might come to do pickup games, but we would also have like Lakers and other, professional basketball players that would be playing on the same courts, pickup games in Wooden Center with us. And, it's just a bizarre kind of situation, right? Engineering student, you're playing pickup games with I would never have gotten to play a pickup game in the same game, but we play on the same courts, right? You could see them play and we play our own game, but it was a pretty funny situation from that perspective. A lot of them tend to run the track and whatnot as well, professional athletes and people from Brentwood and Beverly Hills would come down and run on our track, and oftentimes actors. I would recognize a number of actors who would do things like that too.
Juan, who's the actor you ran into at the premiere in Westwood? Or not ran into, but you took a photo with like
With James Franco.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was just in Westwood and I saw people like crowded over something, and then it was a movie premiere, and yeah, just James Franco casually taking photos with everyone. Just UCLA things.
Yeah, and Endgame also premiered, or like they played it a bunch in Westwood, and one of the directors went to go see his movie at the Westwood movie theater, and people took photos with him after. Just very casual, but oh, I missed that theater.
I think Franco was a professor when I was at UCLA. He taught like a theater or acting class.
That's cool. He must have been young then, because he's, I don't know how old he is now.
Yeah, I think I do miss just like being surrounded by a lot of people your age back in college. Because once you start to work, like depends on the company and the team. Like you could be dealing with a lot of people who are your parents' age, and it's a little harder to have a social life when they have other priorities. And yeah, that was definitely the case for me for my first job. I came in and everybody have kids my age, and it was like, okay, what are we going to talk about? And then once at dinner, one of them is like, you should definitely send your kid to private school. I was like, I am just 2 years younger than your daughter. Like, what?
Oh, and that reminds me, I think this is something that I try to tell everyone who ends up going to the dorms is, I think what's really unique about UCLA is the fact that literally all the dorm buildings are clustered together. I think most other colleges, they're like spread across like their big campus. So it's really hard to meet certain people, but for UCLA, it's in its own little bubble, and most freshmen and sophomores stay in those dorms, right? So literally like whoever you meet during your classes or during clubs, like you know that if you want to hang out with them or reach out to them, they'll literally be within like 5 minutes of a walk, which is really nice. And all the dining halls are closer together because of that too, so which is really nice.
Yeah, the layout is the dorms, the athletic facilities, and then the campus. And so you can actually just go in between and do all of it. I should mention is that I really enjoyed the athletic facilities. I played football my first year in college, and then started doing intramurals and basketball, and we played intramural sports all 3 quarters, all whatever the sport at the time was: football, basketball, and baseball, softball. And it was just a great activity, a great way to get out of the study area and spend an hour or 2 outside. It was really wonderful. UCLA has a lot of that.
Yeah, I remember back in the day when I would attend the football games, especially the UCLA versus USC rivalry game. Those are very intense because it's not just a football game. There's a lot of activities that lead up to the event. So like there used to be the Beat SC bonfire. I don't know if they still do the bonfire now due to safety. They also have performances, and the players and the coach give like speeches to really hype up the entire school. So like that sense of school unity, like school spirit, is very, very strong in UCLA. It's like when I attended my first football game, it was like my high school football, like homecoming football games on steroids, but it's every single football game, and those are always highlights. Oh, and for food in Westwood, trying to think of something iconic. But if there's something you really want to try, you should try Fat Sal's, because Fat Sal's is they're like a deli sandwich shop, and the food is typically pretty unhealthy, but it's actually really, really good. So like things from like they can put cheeseburgers or chicken tenders into your sandwich, French fries, list goes on and on. Definitely something to try once in a while.
And Didi Reese, yeah, there you go, Erica.
Yes, Didi Reese.
My favorite as well.
You got to get the ice cream cookie sandwiches.
Yeah.
You have to go before they increase their prices again. Well, actually, a cookie is like what, 50 cents now? But I think it used to be cheaper.
It used to be 35 cents, I think.
Yeah.
This
David, how much were they when you were in school?
You know, well, I mean, it's still really cheap, right? I mean,
Uh-huh.
today. But yeah, it wasn't, it might have been 25 cents. I guess I don't really remember.
I think the full sandwich was like $1 or $1.50 when I was there.
Yeah. Can't beat it. And they have shave ice there too.
I know we still have, I think, 3 potential students on the line. Are there any other questions that we can answer for you guys?
I think we're officially out of time. So if anyone has questions, now's the time, and then we should break off so people can go have lunch and get on with their weekend. Yeah, I guess we're done. So I want to say thank you to the panel. I'm glad you guys showed up. It's so great to have all of you here. It was really very wonderful to have you to be able to talk to the prospective students. That's really a good thing.
Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah,
thanks.
guys.
Good luck and congratulations.
Yes, congrats. Thank
Hope
you.
you choose to come to UCLA.
Yeah, definitely come to UCLA.
Go Bruins.
It's a great place. It really is.
Bye, guys.